We acknowledge the original owners of the land on which we podcast, whose stories were told for thousands of years. Today, we are recording in Meanjin. We pay our respects to elders past and present who may be listening. Sovereignty was never ceded. A quick note before we get started that there may be some swearing in today's podcast. If you don't like swearing or usually listen with children in the car, you have been warned. This episode of What in the NDIS Now is brought to you by Astalty. Astalty is the software solution for NDIS professionals built by NDIS professionals. Astalty is my go-to software, and Astalty is trusted and loved by hundreds of other NDIS providers. I love how easy it is to use and how it keeps all my participant information, notes, and invoicing all in one place, available to me anytime from any device. Sign up now for your 14-day free trial. Head to astalty.com.au to sign up now. See for yourself how much easier managing all your NDIS business needs are by using Astalty. Thanks again to Astalty for sponsoring today's episode. You're listening to What in the NDIS Now, a podcast where I, Hannah Redford, and my friend Sam Rosenbaum interview participants and providers about all things NDIS. Welcome to today's episode. This time it is me by myself. Sam is off somewhere camping, but we've got a brilliant guest for you today. We have the lovely Jo. Welcome to the podcast, Jo.
Thank you, and hi.
So as we start every episode, where did you grow up?
Oh, gosh, it's funny, isn't it? It seems so long ago that I've talked about stuff like this now. It makes me feel old. So originally from small town New Zealand, spent the majority of my childhood in a really small town over there. And, just we had the best kind of style of childhood. So where we were just literally sent out in the morning and we didn't get back till the street lights came on. So real neighbourhood-based small town childhood. From there, we moved around New Zealand a little bit and I did university in one place, teaching in another place. I am a teacher by profession. And then when I was 27, I left New Zealand, or 26 or 27, left New Zealand on my own to go to the UK with a one-way ticket. And I don't recommend anyone doing that, but that's what I did. I decided I wanted adventures. I'd had an end to a quite a horrific sort of relationship, and went, right, that's it. I'm on my own. I'm going out into the world, and I went. I spent 9 years over there, 4 years initially, and then came to Australia for a couple of years before deciding to go back again, getting a job and going, that attracted me back to the UK, and stayed for, an additional 5 years. So it was after that time that I came to Australia and settled sort of permanently. And I've been here since, which was 2008, I came to Australia and settled. I bought a house and did the whole bit, and have been up here on the Sunshine Coast since then. So acknowledged that those adventures of that time were done and dusted, and came back and settled here. So, and then a whole other series of adventures started to do with living in Australia and a different kind of life. So I've travelled a lot and had a really good time while I lived over in the UK. So, and then, at the time when it ended was the right time to come back here, and, life has been here ever since.
And the Sunshine Coast is such a beautiful part of Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And still has that small town, well, depending on where you are, but has that small town feel that you would
Yeah,
have grown up with.
it does. It's changed a lot since COVID. A lot since COVID. It's got way, way busier. A lot of people, because we got off so lightly up here, really, didn't we, compared to anywhere else in the world, or in Australia specifically. We got off really lightly, and a lot of people decided that they were going to sell up elsewhere and come up here during that time. And we've got so much busier since then. So, and it's so funny because since I left London, I'm like, I never have to live in a city again. Noosa is small enough, that's fine. And now it's almost like, oh, is there somewhere smaller I can go? But even saying that is, the isolation of living on the coast, not even like, it used to be the isolation of living in Australia where we were so much further from the rest of the world. And I loved being in Europe for the time that I was. And I traveled all through Europe for my work. And, and it was so amazing. And being in Australia, you do feel that kind of level of distance and isolation from there. Well, now sort of in Noosa, even someone popped up on LinkedIn this morning about a networking event. And I'm like, well, I'd love to come, but, I'm a bit far away and we don't have the same volume, size, regularity, kind of those sorts of events that does make you feel sometimes like it would be nice to be somewhere else. But when you live in paradise, there's always a trade-off, right?
Right.
So here I am in paradise, and I'm not going to complain about the fact that, it's a big effort to go and do things sometimes.
Yeah. So. Amazing.
Well, pretty short reply, wasn't it?
That segues so nicely, talking about networking, into how did you get into the disability sector?
Right. So I had no plans to get into the disability sector. It was never anything that was not even in the back of my mind. And I think even when I did get into it, I didn't understand what that meant or that I was in it.
Yeah.
I really didn't. Like, I came into this so incredibly naive. And my mum went into a wheelchair. So about 7 years ago, my mum lost pretty much everything as she knew her life to be. So she'd been on a medication for, I don't know, let's say 20 years or something, and it destroyed her knee. Her knee was eaten away just like termites would. So completely disintegrated all the bone in her knee, and she couldn't walk anymore. So she had a really bad fall, went into hospital, and when she came out, that was it. So she couldn't go back to her own house. She couldn't drive. She couldn't volunteer anymore. She couldn't live on her own, and she went into a wheelchair. So, and I had her live with me for a little while, and that didn't work, unfortunately. Sometimes that's just the way it is. And I had to transition her into aged care, which was incredibly difficult. I'm the youngest of 4. None of my siblings wanted to have anything to do with that. So that was what I was tasked with. So I got her into aged care under the guise that she was going for respite, and she's been there ever since. So that's been about 7 years. So when she did go in there, I just went, right, we've got a clean house here, and everything in her room, we freshened up, brought in a heap of colour, made it really, really sort of a joyful space. No old furniture went with her, and started on her room, done her garden, and then I went, right, so what can we do about the wheelchair now? My mum loves colour. She loves dopamine dressing, so she likes to clash things rather than match things. And so I looked for wheel covers, or I don't know how, I came across them anyway, and they were from abroad. And I got them and went, okay, so this is a really cool concept, but also it looks like a pretty simple concept. So it took me a really long time, and I wasn't in the right place mentally or support-wise or anything to actually look at it back then. It took me about 5 years, and then I couldn't stop thinking about it. And my partner said to me, well, if you can't stop thinking about it, you better start really looking at it. So because no other company or business in Australia was dedicating themselves to producing this product, I decided I would. So started doing it, looked at it from the very beginning, had to go through the whole R&D process. I knew nothing about it. I knew nothing, even though I got them from abroad, I knew nothing about the materials, nothing. So I started the process. I went every single sign writer, printmaker, everything on the Sunshine Coast, every single one I went to, and just started that process of developing this product. In about 18 months, it took me to get a product that I'm, now my current product that I'm really, really proud of. As I say, I didn't really understand that I was moving into the disability industry, like that there was this whole industry that I was becoming a part of, until I started talking to people. And I also spent most of my first year of doing this in my office alone, at my kitchen dining table, let's be honest, alone, trying to work things out myself, until I started talking to people who were really interested and supportive and made me understand that I'd entered a whole industry which is completely different from any other industry on the planet. You can't go to a traditional business coach, mentoring, like all these things that say it doesn't matter what product you have, they can help you. No, they can't, because they don't know anything about the disability industry. So that's when the real learning started to happen, was when I started talking to the right people, and they were also in disability. And the support was phenomenal. Like I've never experienced anything like it, where people want to talk to you. They want to talk to other people about you and your product. And, and I don't know, there's a real amazing, authentic community in the disability industry, which is, I have just found incredible.
I think it comes from a lot of it being, our genuine passion. And so we're excited by innovation and things like this. So I just want to sum it up a little bit for the audience who are sort of like, what exactly is this product potentially at this point? So on wheelchairs, often there are spokes or something pretty boring.
Correct. Yes.
And so what your product does is sort of clips onto these wheels.
Yes.
And they have beautiful pictures and makes it a little bit more exciting and customizable.
Yes, absolutely. Look, in a nutshell. So we use a recyclable polypropylene product. So very proudly, our wheel covers are produced in a fully sustainable operation. They are recyclable, 100% Australian made. I finish all of them myself by hand here. I've got some actually sitting behind me that I've been working on this morning. Look at these beautiful ones for Hani Watson, the Paralympian.
Oh,
her name
amazing.
Goes by the name Bench Queen because she's a powerlifter.
Yep. Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah, so I finish off every set by hand and package them all up myself. So I see every set, I get to feel them, see them up close, photograph them, package them up and send them out myself. So they're a very lightweight product. So they add almost no weight to a wheelchair. As you can see, they're very, very thin.
Yeah.
Velcro straps on the back that go around, as you described, around the spokes. So we do offer the option of cable ties as well, but predominantly we use the Velcro. So they get glued on, and you just literally just loop them around the spokes. It takes seconds to put them on, and that's what's so beautiful about them. They're easy to put on. They're really super durable and easy to keep clean, and you can switch them out, so you can have more than one set. So in and out, like there's a couple of sets there for Hani actually, so because she wants to be able to switch them out. And yeah, that's it. So they give you the opportunity to completely personalize a chair. And we have 46 or 47 of our designs on the website, and also the option of a custom order. So you can send us artwork and we can put it onto a wheel cover. So, which is, we do as many custom as we do from our own range. And our range features 7 Australian artists in their original artwork and 2 Canadian artists. So we're very fortunate to have attracted those people and for them to be excited about the fact that they are also have their hand in a product in the disability industry.
That's so amazing to be able to feature artwork as well.
Mm.
The other thing I love about when you've taken photos and shared it on social media is ones that are like for a football team or for the Maroons. And I just think it's so lovely that the Maroons have come on board with you and said, yes, absolutely, use our logo and whatever. Because that can often be a big part of someone's life as well. And you're not just a wheelchair user, you're also a footy fan,
That's exactly right. Exactly right. And it's been that's been a really interesting process. So there's two different types of sporting kind of wheel covers or spoke guards that we've been working with at the moment. One is that whole concept of the footy fan wanting to have their team colours on their wheels. And each set of those has to be approved by that football team. So that's me emailing the NRL or the AFL or whoever and going, I've got a customer who would love a pair, trying to find the right person and then getting the approval of the official logos and artwork. So, and then that has to go through to the production phase as well so that they know I've been approved to use that artwork. So that's quite a laborious process, but how happy do you think that makes somebody, that they get to turn up to a game with Broncos wheel covers on? I've got a really hardcore fan, Brooke, at the moment, who she spends so long at the Broncos getting all their signatures. So she's got her wheel covers with Broncos and all the signatures covering her wheel covers. And they look incredible, just amazing. And they just make her so, so happy. So that, that's kind of the one side of the sporting ones. The other side at the moment is that sport wheel cover or wheel covers for sporting teams with their sponsors' names on them. So I'm working with sports teams at the grassroots level to encourage sponsorship funding through people having their logos and branding on this really visual real estate out on a sports court. And that's, another fantastic option for the community-based sports teams who, for them, it's expensive to maintain the chairs, to pay for the courts, and encourage the coaches and all the rest of it who come to work with these kids from a young age to participate in wheelchair sports. So that's been really exciting. And I really want to help to try and develop that over the, coming years to get support at that level, because those guys are doing incredible things. And the funding, at the higher level of the wheelchair teams doesn't drip down that far. So, they've got all the jerseys and the branding and the great, expensive chairs and all the rest of it. And then you've got these guys who are trying to, use the chairs for multiple players, and they're having to become mechanics themselves to keep these chairs on the court. So that's the other side of the whole sporting umbrella at the moment.
Oh, I love that idea. That is so cool.
Yeah, and you can sponsor a wheelchair for South East Queensland Wheelchair Rugby League for $700 a year, which is tax refundable. And that pays, that goes a long way towards helping them maintain a wheelchair. And you get these amazing wheel covers. They just, oh my God, they look so good. And they have them on, for a whole season. So it's, it's a no-brainer. It's just trying to get people's heads around, because again, if they're not in disability, trying to get them to understand the difference to actually assimilate or, associate themselves with that, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. That's really tricky. You're in such a good position, though, to be able to convince people, because I think it, like you said, it is a no-brainer, and it's such a great product because it is making the wheelchairs more exciting and decorated, and all coming from your mum that was this very colourful person. And I love that so much. It's such a beautiful tie-in.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And, and the whole, and then that's how I got, I named my business Color My Wheels, because to me, I'm a freak for color as well. So to me, it didn't make sense that someone who was vibrant or just was passionate about anything couldn't convey that through their, legs. Yeah. It's like us changing our shoes or, whatever the case may be, or putting on a bright coloured coat or whatever. And the one thing there was that, my mum felt invisible in her wheelchair, as a lot of wheelchair users do, until people had a reason to talk to her. And there's a lot of people like that who are not in kind of a wheelchair or disability-based community where people don't know how to communicate with them on a just a normal basis. And I found that out when I took my mum out. Everyone looked over her head at me and wanting to talk to me. And then they didn't know if they should address her or not. And I think that's a huge barrier between, non-disabled, or let's say not yet disabled people, and disabled people. And so when people would say to her, "Oh, those are cool wheels," I would just walk away. I would literally just walk away, wander off for a little bit while Mum had this wonderful conversation with this person about her wheels. And that's the feedback I've had from so many customers, saying that people now talk to them, they feel seen, they feel, God forbid, human, they feel like their disability is not at the forefront anymore, and that we're breaking down this barrier and created a conversation starter for them. And that was, full transparency, I didn't know that. I did not understand that. I just thought this would be a nice product for people in wheelchairs. I had no clue, completely naive, that this is actually what it would do. And that's been the biggest thing for me. And you know what? Things have got really hard sometimes, and it would have been easier for me to go and get a job. And yet here I am, still going. And because every single time, and I got an email this week from a lady just saying, "I cannot believe these are so cool. My son is so happy." A kid going to school in a wheelchair where no one actually really knows how to talk to him. And then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh my God, you've got so-and-so on your wheel covers," or, just to give them an opportunity to engage is massive. I've got some being made this week for a young nonverbal boy, and his mum is so excited that people are going to have a reason to connect with him. Apart from they've done some other personalizations, but they're going to have this great reason to actually, talk to him about it. So, yeah, I guess that's become my why. I always had a why. This really become why I'm still here. Why I'm still scraping the barrel, and why I keep pushing forward and finding, a reason every day, because it's my customers. What else can I say?
Of course. That's such amazing feedback. That is so cool. We do have those stories often of people in wheelchairs just being ignored or talked down to is the worst one. And, yes, infantilized, we definitely had that. That was a big part of what we had an episode with Natasha Scholl, and she was talking about her son and how people will come up and go, "Oh, you having a nice day?" And he's like, yeah, like, why are you doing that? And him saying also that they know they can just not say anything as well.
Yeah.
There's such an awkward thing with that. And it's so awful. It's even like at cafes, and the waiter will talk to the person who's not in a wheelchair, and I'm like, I don't know what they want. Ask them. Like,
yeah, exactly. And I think, like, if you don't have lived experience, like there's a lot that can be forgiven, because until I had lived experience, I had no clue about this world being created for me. It wasn't created for someone less able-bodied than me. It wasn't. Even when I'm standing on a street corner now and I look around to where access is and where curbs go down, like where ramps are to curbs and all the rest of it, I finally started clicking, really clicking about how inaccessible we have made our world, because people with a disability haven't been at the table. And, unless somebody in your family, and again, I will put my hand up and go, when my mum went into a wheelchair, I just thought, she's old. She goes, she has to be in a wheelchair now. She's old and broken, because her knee, basically her leg is done. And that was, to me at that time, that was acceptable. I never put myself in her shoes and went, what if that happened to me? What that could happen to me, today.
yeah.
How would I deal with the inaccessible nature of the world around us? And, for anyone who doesn't have lived experience, sometimes it pays, it would be beneficial to spend that 2 minutes and go, okay, if that were me, because life changes for so many people in the blink of an eye that it does become them, like, how then is your perception going to change? And that's a huge thing, a huge thing. And that brings me to the whole, not only is having a personalised wheelchair great for the wheelchair user, it's great for the person who finds they have something to engage with them on. That's the person standing there that goes, I'd like to be able to engage with you, but I don't know how. All of a sudden says, and oh, I really like those wheels. And they feel good about themselves because they've found a way to connect with somebody that they didn't know how to otherwise. And all of a sudden they get that real kind of sense of, oh, actually, that was quite easy. Like, there is actually no reason for me not to do that. Yeah. If I want to acknowledge it, if I want to say hi, I should just say hi. That's it. My mum goes down the street and people yell out to her, I love your wheels. She goes to the doctors every week, and every week someone in the waiting room tells her how much they love her wheels. A simple engagement and connection like that, and the other person feels just as good as my mum does. Another knock-on effect that I had no clue about when I started. And, to me, it's that's another big, benefit, I suppose. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. One of the things I loved was you had an artist do a series, but you wanted to just make one. And so you put out to social media and said, hey, these are all amazing. They were all amazing. And can you help me pick one? And for me, it was like impossible. I was like, I don't know, because they all
That's
look
why
amazing.
I did it. I couldn't choose.
They're just the brain that can make the patterns that you showed is just phenomenal to me. And they looked beautiful and very colourful, just like, is sort of your philosophy about making these really colourful. And I just thought it was really cool to ask the community, well, what do you all think? That was And I think you realised that depending on the social media platform changed what was number one.
Yes. Yeah, that was really interesting. Overwhelmingly different from one to another. One, the majority was design 5. Another, the majority were for 3. So when I thought I had a winner, like I switched over to another, to Instagram or whatever it was, and found that everybody there, or most people there, liked a completely different one. So in the end, I had this kind of tie of 2 of the designs. I did have a tie actually of the 2 designs. I went, okay, so let's just put those 2 out to everybody, because although I knew which one of those 2 was my favorite, I wanted to get everybody else to tell me. And it was the one that I had initially picked from the very beginning, was the one that ended up being the favorite in the end. And it was a really nice way of getting people to have their own input taken, into consideration. So, and Chandra Smith, the artist, like I've long known that artists see the world in a different way to the rest of us mortal beings. The way that they interpret the world through colour is so awe-inspiring to me. And then, you meet these beautiful artists, and she's actually donated 2 different designs now. So she doesn't take any money from any sales. She has no license agreement with me. She literally says, hey, I'd love for you to use these. And it's the most sensational gift. And, the fact that they are as beautiful as they are. And her initial one that she donated to us is one of our best sellers. It's so beautiful. And it's literally, it's very similar, like it's the flower, but it's completely different colors to the current one. And it's honestly, people just love it. So, I was very grateful for that. And that whole sort of process was really fulfilling and interesting.
Tell me about some practicalities. Do the wheel covers come in a variety of sizes?
Yeah, so every wheelchair is a bit different. So most wheelchairs have a standard wheel size, which is normally either a 22-inch or a 24-inch. And I can base my sizing off that. But I normally ask for a measurement to be taken inside of the push rim. So the diameter from one side to the other with the tape measure hard against the push rims, because although there are standard wheel sizes, all the push rims are different and the spokes can be different. So, and if it's a mag wheel, they have 5 solid spokes instead of the 24 or however many of the, fine metal spokes. They'll have 5 quite thick solid ones. Well, me sending out, a wheel cover with 4 Velcro straps on doesn't really work when you have just 5 spokes. So we customize to that extent. We customize without extra charge to make sure the actual fit is right. And the majority of wheelchairs have the multiple, spokes, fine metal spokes, and therefore our design would be universal for them. But yeah, we will make to any size for a standard manual wheelchair wheel. I have made a couple of sets for a smaller wheel for an electric chair. That's a little bit more interesting, and that depends completely on the style of wheel and if we can actually get in behind it. And then that takes that's a little bit more customizing. But if we can do it, and I have done it a couple of times, and people have been really happy and excited about it. But yeah, so everything is made to order. I don't have stock sitting here. Every single set of wheel covers is made to order to that person's wheelchair.
Do people typically get the NDIS to fund the wheel covers?
Yeah, we haven't actually had any rejected through NDIS funding. And I learned about this at an expo because again, learning process, the learning curves have not stopped coming. Being in an expo, when I got to speak to parents, people who were self-managed and plan managed and all the rest of it, and they actually were the ones that educated me on the language around it and what they actually claimed under. And they are an assistive technology accessory / low cost consumable. So they're on the consumables budget of the assistive technology accessories. And because they are considered a low cost consumable, they pretty much are a no-brainer. So we've had no issues whatsoever. And for those purposes, we just term them as spoke guards, because wheel covers can be a little bit confusing. People are not quite as au fait with that term as they are with spoke guards, which, also means that they are a functional item, not just a decorative item. So there you go. That's exactly how we've done it, and that seems to have, keep the NDIS happy.
And we need to keep the NDIS happy.
Yep. Apparently.
Yeah, which can be hard.
Yep.
So I love that you've been able to figure out also the wording that you need, and that's so great. That's so helpful for everyone.
Yeah, and when people order through the website, we offer to send them a separate invoice just for NDIS purposes, because our invoices on the website don't say assistive technology, blah, blah, blah. So if people want it, if they request it, we'll send them a separate invoice with all those details on it, including their NDIS number if they want it on it, and we do those up and we just send them out. It's easy. And then they've got exactly what they need, and it's, generally not questioned.
Amazing. Is there anything else about your wheel covers that you want to tell people about?
I think we've done pretty well, really, in terms of covering everything about them. I think the biggest thing is that if there's anything you don't know, don't understand about them, would like to know, is just to ask the question. Like, fire questions at me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions, to help with measuring, to help with custom designs. That's what I'm here for. So, a lot of people go, I was thinking about this kind of design, and then they get confused or don't know how to go about it. I'm like, well, hey, I'm here to help you. I can help you create that design. So just let me know. And, I work with Illustrator myself. I also have a printer / designer who I can forward things on to tweak, to, really make quite special, which is exactly what we do. Yeah, so if people have any questions whatsoever, it's better to don't assume I can't do it, because we do some pretty spectacular things when people have asked.
That's so awesome. And all your details will be in the show notes of how people can get in contact with you. So have a look in the episode show notes. So we've come to the point of the episode where I ask, in your ideal world, what would the future of the NDIS look like?
Oh, compared to others, my experience with the NDIS is relatively minimal. But prior to this business, I was actually doing meal prep in home. So I would go to people's houses and I would meal prep for them. And I did have some NDIS clients. And the one thing that really stood out to me was the inconsistencies. Every single person that I cooked for that was NDIS, their invoices were different. The process was different. The things on the details required on the invoice, the amount that I was allowed to charge was different. I had an hourly rate. I never raised it for my NDIS clients, but I had NDIS clients dictate that I was only allowed to be paid so much, because that was what was budgeted or allowed at the NDIS end. So I just found that the absolute consistencies were mind-boggling and confusing and frustrating. Some would pay within 48 hours, and some I was still chasing up after a couple of weeks after I've done the meal prep, done and dusted, ages ago. And that was, for me, that was really frustrating. The other thing I found that's really frustrating for NDIS clients was the inability to actually obtain NDIS funding or the frustrations in their inability to be able to obtain it. And I had, a client who had enough money, fortunately for her, to pay an agent to get NDIS funding. And by the time I went out and started servicing her, she had multiple different people attending her in her home. She was back working full time, flipping properties, having holidays in Europe, and getting full NDIS funding for people like me, cleaners, hairdressers to come and wash her hair, like all these different things. And then I had another client who had to stop having me come, couldn't afford a cleaner anymore, couldn't work, had to go and live at home. She was my age, lived back at home with her parents just to be supported. But she didn't have the money to pay for an agent to get NDIS funding for her. So it took her a really long time until she actually received that report. And I think she was turned down twice over the period of a year, whilst specialists, she has multiple specialists trying to help her get that funding. And the inequity of that to me was mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. The two different ends of the scale, from someone so over-supported to someone so under-supported, who was way sicker than the person who was extremely over-supported. So, what I'm doing now is, there's an NDIS component, but I've got it down to this lovely little formula, and it's working. So I don't have all that other bullshit anymore, and it's lovely.
That sounds blissful. Because
Yes.
What you've described is exactly the frustration a lot of us have with the NDIS, and its inconsistency is so frustrating, and that inequity, because if you can afford to pay out of pocket for the best reports and the best specialists, you will get a vastly better package, better funding than if you don't have, and it's ridiculous.
It is, because it doesn't mean that you need it any more than anybody else.
No.
Because you don't. There are people there who and I hear these stories of, because I've got in my accounting system, I have many quotes sitting there for months and months and months, just waiting for a wheelchair to be approved. A really long time. And we're talking people who need a wheelchair, who need a new wheelchair, who've grown out of a wheelchair, whose wheelchair causes them pain, all these different reasons. These people need a wheelchair. It's why it's been scripted. It wasn't scripted because they just felt like an additional wheelchair. It was scripted because it was required, and people put hours and hours and hours and days worth of work into creating a script for that new wheelchair. And yet it takes absolutely months. I've heard of new wheelchairs taking a year or more.
Yeah.
And that's a concern. That's a massive concern. And my mum, who's now too old for NDIS, that's the other bugbear I have, is that at 65, you can't get NDIS anymore. Well, my mum can't get a new wheelchair. My mum's had the same wheelchair for 7 years, and it is getting worse and worse and worse. But she can't get a new wheelchair through my aged care. She has to pay for her own wheelchair. My mum doesn't have the money for a wheelchair. So she's weaker than she was 7 years ago. And she's still trying to get about in the same clunky, heavy old wheelchair that she got in hospital rehabilitation 7 years ago. It's just incredible. And I've had an OT go and see her, and and all they did was send me a list of wheelchairs and prices. So if you'd like your mum to have a new wheelchair, here you go. I'm like, what? Why can't the people who we got this first wheelchair from through my aged care, why can't they upgrade it? Why can't they update it for her? No, there's no support there. So that's my other thing, is that if someone has assistive technology through, because they are disabled, then they should be taken care of, no matter at what age they are. They should be taken care of, 100%. That's my other thing.
Oh, this is definitely the forum to air all your bugbears.
Yeah, well, thank you for that.
I really appreciate you saying that too, because I think sometimes we can become a little bit short-sighted in NDIS world and just caught up in NDIS world, and it can be easy to forget, and I'm not saying everyone, but it can be easy to forget that, you know, the my aged care system is pretty broken as well.
Mm-hmm. But I think people actually think that, oh, well, they're old, so they kind of have to deal with it because they're the aging population and these things happen because they're getting older. So I don't think as many people are out there kind of, raging against my aged care as they are against NDIS, because NDIS is, it's a much larger demographic involved, and when they do cut it off and they sort of hand over to my aged care, it's like, they're old. It's an aging population. And they kind of just have to deal with the fact that they're now becoming disabled, but it's age. It's like, whoa, okay. It's that was a bit of a shock when I assumed that my mum would be able to get an updated wheelchair, and just hit brick walls.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the NDIS can be framed cuter, because you can show children in wheelchairs and that's all sweet and lovely. And old people are slightly harder sell because, our culture doesn't value our elders like some other cultures.
Correct.
So it's a harder sell to wheel out, have pictures of older people and show them. That's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
How do we make it sexy?
Exactly. How do you make it cute? How do you make it adorable? But my mum was my sole sort of model from the get-go, was, getting my mum out there and putting wheel covers on her wheelchair and taking photos in front of beautiful murals and all the rest of it. And that's all I had to work with from the beginning was, my 80-year-old mum. Now it's, a little bit different because, it's important that every demographic sees themselves represented. Otherwise, why are they going to be interested in my product? But then, I don't know. Because, my mum's knee wasn't destroyed by medication. She wouldn't be in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of 80-year-olds out there who don't need assistive technology. So, let's be a little bit realistic about it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's been so wonderful to have you on the podcast and to talk about Colour My Wheels. I really appreciate you sharing all about it.
Thanks. I can talk about my business for a whole day. If you've got time, I'll go make a coffee. Seriously, I have. It just makes me so happy, and we all have the hard days. We all have the days, where I just sit here and go, I don't know what to do next.
Yeah.
But I still come back to the desk the next day. I might still not know what to do next, but I still come back the next day and I still talk to people and I still retain connections and make new ones as much as I can. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's the only way I'm going to stay here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So hunt Jo down on all the socials.
You'll find me.
Yeah. Awesome. Until next time, bye.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you for listening. Please share with people you know. Until next time, as the Green Brothers say, don't forget to be awesome.